Hello, this is Nathan. This is update 15 of creating a learning Italian from scratch and uploading a new course to Udemy in 4 weeks. All right, why learn it? Why choose to teach a language which you don't already know, like Italian? Okay. The answer is to empathize with the learners of French and learners of Spanish who haven't got any background in the language. It's to really see firsthand what it takes to learn a language to a certain level without having very little, if any, points of reference. Okay. So why am I doing this? Well, partially because I think I'm pretty well suited to it. I'm no master linguist. I know many people who are much better linguists than I am. But because I can, but much more importantly, because you can't beat something with nothing. Language education either stinks, it's just rubbish, or is prohibitively expensive. I exaggerate, of course, but I'm given to exaggeration. But it really does stink when it comes to state education. If your child is learning French or learning Spanish in a state school as a Christian, it's a moral disaster area. And if you don't believe me, just grab their books and take a look. I'm not going to try to persuade you. Okay. Also, I've had a burr in my brain. I have this thing which I've been able to see, let's put it this way, I've been able to see how things can be done better. And I think I can do things better. I've had a vision of what a sensible language course would need, would require. Of course, I don't pretend to have all the answers, but I think I have a decent idea. Anyway, so plus I think I can. I've done some language courses before, and I think I can do a better job. And I think in some ways I'm obliged to do a better job. So, okay, right. Now, here's how I'm going about it, and you might find this interesting. So what we have here in this spreadsheet, let's see if I can zoom in here a little bit, that wasn't very good, is a series of pages here. This is simple present tense, future simple, not imperative, imperfect, pronouns, nouns, prepositions, conjunctions, adjectives. Okay, and I have a note of how often each of these have been used, each of the adjectives. And with the verbs, I think you'll find this interesting. I've got them classified as to their person, or whether they're finite or infinite. So infinites, past perfect, present perfect, and the six persons for each of them. And I'm keeping a record. And the idea is that, well, first of all, these verbs are in order of popular, how common they are, how often they're used. And the idea is to keep things as balanced as possible in order to give the students really what they need. They need to be able to know how to. It's imbalanced at the moment because, for example, dire, to say, has nothing. That's not actually probably not the case. It's probably credere, lavorare, vedere. I have no present tense in vedere. Pensare, little. So I can see at a glance what's needed, and I can then adapt the course to meet those needs. My thought is that you need to repeat something between 3 and 7 times in a meaningful context rather than just memorizing it in isolation in order for it to really go in. Okay, the same for the future. I've just started the future and I haven't actually noted down anything of what I have in the future in the course so far. In the simple past, again, I've not started the simple past, neither with the imperfect, but I have an idea of what needs to be included in order, because you can make guesses, but unless you keep meticulous records, which is a pain in the bottom, let's just say, unless you keep records, really you're guessing. Now, these are a couple of my new courses here. I've got, was it 370 students in one new course, 305 in the other, and they're free at the moment. These are 2 new courses which I've just released. These are the ongoing courses. I don't make a terrible lot, as you can see, at the moment, but I think that the possibilities are exciting. This is the oldest course here. This is Spanish to English. Anyway, so here are some of the tools I'm using. Google Translate. No matter what you say, it's pretty darn useful. In conjunction with conjugator reverso.net, which gives you the conjugations of each verb, plus it'll give you translations with text in context. So I think this helps avoid making greater errors and gives you genuine examples of how things are used. Plus, I'm using Reddit's Italian learning. I can ask questions of Redditors who are native Italian speakers and who are interested. Okay, as well as that, I'm using this little thing. It's called writewords.org.uk, and if you paste the text into it, it'll show you how often each of the words has been used. So these are English words: una, piace, cosa, voglio, bisogno. And I can then plug those numbers into the spreadsheet. Okay, it's painstaking. It is painfully painstaking, and also I admit I'm just searching as I go along because, as I say, I don't know Italian. So the best way to do it is to learn it. So that's essentially how I'm doing it. And well, let me share a little bit more about that. So I have 40 in each of the categories, major categories of the parts of speech: nouns, pronouns, adjectives, adverbs, verbs. I made a list of 40 plus of each one in order, and the idea is to include those as often as include it as wide a spread that is possible of the most common nouns, pronouns, etc. So it's not easy, but I think personally that it is the only possible way of knowing that your course is balanced. It is unhinged in the amount of work that's needed, possibly, but that's not to mention the sentence type. So sentence type could be interrogative. It could be a question sentence, a negative question sentence, question word sentence, and then you add in all the possible arrangements of the discourse of syntax, and it's a pretty deranged thing to do. But I really do think it's the only way to have a framework like that and work through it. Now, even if your course, let's say you have a course that's 3 hours, 3 hours introduction to Italian. If it doesn't include, I would say that could potentially be 3 hours wasted unless it was comprehensive. And what I like to do is to always to never introduce something in isolation. So you're keeping it balanced, things balanced through the breadth and length of the course, but you're always introducing things in the necessary complexity of a sentence. All right. So why do this again? Well, and also, despite the complexity, there is always a limited number of things that need to be taught, especially if you're going from English to the target language, and the target language being a related Romance language or even Germanic language. You're not having to learn a writing system so much, although there are differences in orthography. Anyway, so here's the idea. The idea is to take 4 languages, French, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, the major Romance languages, and cycle through teaching them. So possibly next month I'll be learning, God willing, Portuguese to a certain level. Again, going deeper, creating more empathy more understanding of what's necessary, applying the lessons, constantly applying the lessons that I've learned from the previous courses, in order to produce a framework for basic French education, basic Romance language education that can, to a great degree, be copied and pasted, not to make a cookie cutter course, but to make best use of the resources, and then cycle back to the original languages, the Spanish and the French, to make much improved courses there, and complete courses. Complete in the sense of covering a wider, possibly a wider choice of vocabulary, but more importantly, a wider selection of possible sentence types, possible sort of inter-language problems, whatever, up to a higher level, maybe a B2 or C1 level. I can't really say that I'm C1 I'm possibly C1 in French, or was, B2 probably, if anything, in Spanish anyway, maybe. Anyway, so, and then the ultimate thing is to replace, or give the liberty-minded Christian schooler, homeschooler, whatever schooler, independent learner, the ability not to have to sully themselves with GCSEs or A-levels, but to give a genuine working alternative. And, we can't beat something with nothing. We have a huge educational crisis in the UK, and a great part of that crisis is demonstrated in the fact that Bible-believing Christians, put it that way, or evangelicals, better to say evangelicals, voted for a party and are mourning the defeat of a socialist party. And socialism is philosophically materialist. It doesn't allow for any God in the system, and it's religiously hostile to Christianity in all its instances. So, so the idea is to, once you have a really solid course which covers probably just up to C1, possibly C2 level, introduce readings, select readings, obviously from the Bible, something preferably with text in both languages, well translated, with audio available, readily available in both languages, so that you can get your listening as well as your reading and so on, and be able to check your translations as independent learners, as well as other Christian classics and things like liberty-oriented stuff. And there's quite a selection, probably. I'm not sure how much has been translated into Portuguese and Italian, or even French for that matter, but there should be quite a lot into Spanish already. So, the idea would be to create a freemium model of a lot of stuff, the majority of the stuff being available online, but with a possible test or additional help available in terms of tests and quizzes and what have you, in the likes of Udemy, but also on a hosted educational platform. And the idea would be for other curriculums to be able to take this and maybe rebrand it or whatever as well. But I think as Christians, we do really need to be taking every thought captive. And part of taking every thought captive is to replace the systemically broken and morally bankrupt secular school system and their language programs with effective and at least morally upright, Christian-oriented, Christian worldview language programs. If you didn't realize it already, your English program in your US high schools and your UK high schools, as well as other foreign language programs, are not just there to teach English or to teach whatever target language might be being taught. It is to communicate the anti-biblical humanistic worldview through their choice of reading matter and themes that must be discussed, and so on. So we really need to be working on the alternative. I am working on an alternative, and yeah, I just wanted to let you know what I was doing. I hope that gave you an idea. And yeah, longer than usual. And I hope you find this entertaining or interesting or whatever adjective you might choose. Okay, well, God bless, and I hope you find that interesting.